Why did the woman at the center of the NATO parade ground look so calm when every voice around her was sharpening into a blade? The morning air was cold enough to sting. 60 officers and trainees stood in rigid formation, boots planted, breath rising in thin white clouds. No one spoke. They were all watching her. Captain Leah Anders. She stood alone on the concrete square, 5'4", shoulders squared, dark hair pulled tight against her skull. Her eyes were the color of storm clouds that had learned how to wait. Not angry, not afraid, just controlled. Colonel Victor Hale paced slowly in front of her, his polished boots clicking like a metronome counting down something no one else could hear. "Captain Anders," he said loudly, letting the words echo across the formation, "if you cannot maintain even basic uniform standards, perhaps this camp is not for beginners." A ripple of discomfort moved through the ranks. A few faces smirked. Most stared straight ahead. Leia did not react. 4 counts in. 4 counts out. 4 counts hold. Repeat. Hale circled her like a predator deciding where to bite first. He stopped behind her, squinted, then gestured at a barely visible grease mark on her gray physical training shirt. "Do you see this?" he asked the formation. "This is what happens when we lower our standards, when we allow distractions." The way he said distraction made its meaning clear. Leia's jaw tightened just enough to be felt, not seen. Her hands hung loose at her sides, but the tendons in her wrists stood out like cables under tension. Hale stepped closer, so close she could smell the bitterness of his coffee. "I have half a mind to send you back to whatever desk you crawled out from," he said softly. Then his voice snapped loud again. "But first, Corporal Briggs, front and center." Jake Briggs stepped forward, a mountain of a man, 240 pounds of muscle and swagger. His grin had been waiting for this moment. "Sir." Hale pointed at Leia's back. "Inspect the captain's undershirt. I need to verify it meets regulation." The air changed. Everyone knew what that meant. Briggs hesitated just long enough to look like he had a choice. Then he stepped behind her. "Ma'am," he said, falsely polite, "this'll be quick." Leia did not turn, did not tense, did not move. 4 counts in. 4 counts out. Briggs grabbed the back of her collar and yanked. The sound of tearing fabric split the morning. Gasps rippled through the formation as cold air hit her bare skin. But it wasn't the exposure that stole the breath from the crowd. It was what was revealed. Ink. Dark. Precise. Alive. A massive hawk stretched across Leia's back, wings spread from shoulder to shoulder, every feather shaded with surgical detail. Talons curved like they were about to tear through skin. Its eyes seemed to watch the world. This wasn't a tattoo. It was a declaration. Small lines of text ran beneath the wings, more near the bird's chest, not decorative, coded. The first laugh came unsure, then louder. "Holy hell, that's a big bird," someone muttered. "Did she get that at a zoo?" Another voice snorted. Laughter spread, easy, cruel, safe. Hale folded his arms, smiling. "Well, Captain, I must admit that's impressive in a certain light. Tell me, how much did that masterpiece cost?" More laughter. Leia stood still, her torn shirt hanging from her shoulders like rags. The rising sun caught the ink and made the hawk shimmer. Hale squinted at the small text. "What does it say?" "Something inspirational. Love, laugh, love." The formation roared. Briggs grinned. "Looks like one of those wannabe operator tattoos, sir. You know, the kind people get when they watch too many action movies." Hale nodded. "Ah yes, the I wish I was a warrior special." Leia felt every word hit like a stone. But she did not bend. Because she had been broken in places this crowd could not imagine. Hale waved dismissively. "Get yourself a new shirt, Captain, and next time try covering that artwork. This is a military installation, not a tattoo convention. Dismissed. Leia exhaled slowly. 4 counts out. She turned and walked away, back straight, pace measured. Behind her, the whispers followed. Probably got it on spring break. Bet it's not even finished. Looks fake. She did not look back. In the last row, Sergeant Major Thomas Hayes didn't laugh. 32 years in uniform had taught him something important. Real warriors didn't need to talk about it. And that tattoo, that wasn't fashion. That was military ink. The kind done in safe houses. In war zones. In places where people didn't expect to live long enough to regret it. Beside him, Commander Adam Reed stared at Leia's retreating back. When Briggs grabbed her, Reed said quietly, she didn't flinch. Hayes grunted, so. I've only seen that kind of stillness in people who have been through SEER. Survival, evasion, resistance, escape. The kind of training you don't give to desk officers. Inside the barracks bathroom, Leia stared at herself in the cracked mirror. The Hawk stared back. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a worn metal coin, Hawk insignia on one side, serial number on the other. She ran her thumb over it. Then she smiled. Not happy. Not relieved. A hunter's smile. The rest of the day passed in silence and small humiliations. At breakfast, someone joked about her flying away from responsibility. In briefing, an instructor asked if she had any more surprises under her shirt. Leia said nothing. She filed reports, organized manifests, did the kind of invisible work people ignored. And she watched. Who laughed? Who stayed silent? Who looked afraid? By noon, her name had become a joke. By evening, Colonel Hale was reviewing her file. Captain Leia Anders. Intelligence analyst. No combat deployments. No field operations. He smiled. Just another paper pusher playing soldier. He didn't know he was reading a tombstone. Because Leia Anders had already died once. And ghosts don't mind being underestimated. Sometimes, it's how they get close enough to strike. Why did the men who laughed at her that morning start feeling uneasy when she picked up a rifle like it was an extension of her body? The reassignment came just after dawn, delivered with a smile that didn't reach Colonel Hale's eyes. Captain Anders, he said to the briefing room, you'll be joining Bravo team for today's close quarters battle exercise. Live fire, kill house. Since you seem eager to prove yourself, this should be educational. A few people glanced at Leia. Some looked amused, others looked almost sorry. This wasn't a normal training drill. The kill house was where even seasoned operators felt their pulse spike. Tight corners, split-second decisions, real bullets. And Hale had just thrown a desk officer into the deep end. Leia met his gaze. Yes, sir. No protest. No fear. Only that quiet calm that unsettled people who lived on adrenaline. At the range, her gear waited for her like an insult laid out on a table. The rifle was old, the stock was scarred, the sights were slightly off-center, anyone could see that. Her tactical vest was 2 sizes too big, sagging on her frame. Even the earpiece crackled with static. Someone wanted her to fail. Bravo team stood nearby. All men, all combat veterans. They watched her with a mix of curiosity and doubt. Corporal Miles Chen cleared his throat. Ma'am, no disrespect, but have you done CQB before? Leia adjusted the loose vest straps. I'll manage. Chen exchanged a look with the others. Staff Sergeant Travis Cole stepped forward. He was older, steadier. Captain, this isn't a joke. If you're not comfortable. I said I'll manage. Something in her voice made him stop. The buzzer sounded. They stacked at the door. Leia took the rear position, rifle at low ready. The door blew open. Smoke, shouting, boots hitting concrete. They flowed inside. First room, clear, 2 targets neutralized. Second room. They missed a corner. A hidden threat target popped up. Chen swung his rifle, but his angle was wrong. If he fired, he'd hit a hostage silhouette. He froze. Hold fire, Cole barked. The clock was ticking. 3 seconds until failure. Then Leia moved. 2 steps right. New angle. Rifle up. 1 shot. The target fell. Chen stared. How did you? Leia was already moving. Third room. Chaos. 4 targets, 2 hostages, tight angles, bodies blocking lines of fire. Someone had to take the shot. Leia dropped to 1 knee, lowered her angle, fired twice. 2 threats down. The buzzer ended the drill. Clear, time 47 seconds. The room went silent. That's a new facility record, the range officer added. Previous was 52, held by a SEAL instructor. Chen looked at Leia like he'd just seen a ghost. Cole swallowed. Captain, where did you learn to shoot like that? Practice. She cleared the weapon and walked away. In the observation booth, Hayes leaned forward as the footage replayed in slow motion. Look at her footwork, he muttered. That's Tier 1 movement. Reed's jaw tightened. That's JSOC training, advanced CQB. But her file says she's never been. Her file is lying. Later, Leia knelt alone on the concrete, picking up spent casings. 3 of them formed a small triangle before she scattered them with her boot. Old habits were dangerous. That afternoon, a scream tore through the training yard. Private Lee lay on the gravel, his leg bent wrong, bone protruding through skin. Blood pooled beneath him. People froze. Someone shouted for a medic. But Leia was already there. Lee, look at me, she said calmly. Breathe with me, 4 counts in. He tried. 4 counts out. Her hands moved, gauze pressure splint. Stay with me, you're going to be okay. She called in a 9-line medevac with perfect precision. 7 minutes later, the helicopter arrived. You just saved his leg, the paramedic told her. Leia walked away without a word. That night, Commander Reed couldn't sleep. He kept hearing her voice. 4 counts in. 4 counts out. The same words a nameless analyst had whispered to him as she dragged him out of a burning Humvee years ago. He opened the classified database. Ghost Hawk Intelligence Cell. Status: killed in action. Name: Captain Leia Anders. Reed stared at the screen, heart pounding. Dead women weren't supposed to walk into kill houses and break records. But ghosts didn't care about paperwork. And Leia Anders was no longer pretending to be harmless. She was starting to wake the past. And the past was starting to look back. Why did the room go quiet when the encrypted message appeared on the screen? And why did Leia look like she was staring at an old enemy instead of random code? The communications center smelled like burnt coffee and nervous sweat. Monitors glowed across the walls, lines of encrypted text crawling like living things. A drone exercise in Poland was waiting on a decode, and the clock was already bleeding away precious seconds. Specialist Vega, the camp's best cryptographer, lay in the infirmary with food poisoning. The message had arrived anyway. 20 minutes to decode it. 45 minutes for a replacement. Colonel Hale saw an opportunity. Captain Anders, he said smoothly, you're the senior intelligence officer present. Headquarters needs this message decoded. Can you handle it? Dozens of eyes turned to her, waiting, hoping she would fail. I can try, sir. Hale smiled and left the room. The timer started. the screen filled with blocks of letters and numbers, meaningless to most of the people watching. To them, it looked like static. To Leia, it looked like an old scar. She pulled a chair up and didn't touch the keyboard. Instead, she took out a pen and paper. Someone snorted behind her. "Old school," Foster muttered. Leia didn't answer. She leaned in, eyes narrowing. "Caesar variant," she whispered. "Rotating key, timestamp seated." Her pen started moving. Numbers, arrows, cipher wheels. 3 minutes passed. 5. The room had gone so quiet that people could hear her pen scratching. At 8 minutes, she stopped writing and typed a long string of characters into the decryption terminal. Enter. The screen flickered. Then the gibberish dissolved into clean, readable coordinates and instructions. A technician's jaw dropped. That's correct." "Transmit it," Leia said. 11 minutes, 42 seconds. Foster stared at the paper she left behind. In the corner was a small note, NH7. He took a photo and sent it to Hayes. Hayes sent it to Reed. Reed went pale. Nightingale 7. Ghost Hawk. Cryptography and signals. Official status, KIA. Later that day, Private Lee's mother was told her son would walk again. The surgeon looked at the report. "Who stabilized him?" "Captain Anders." The surgeon frowned. That wasn't basic first aid, that was combat medicine. At the camp, whispers were changing. Not mocking now. Worried. In his office, Colonel Hale listened to the growing unease through the walls. And for the first time since Leia arrived, he felt hunted. Why did the training mission suddenly feel less like an exercise and more like a trap designed for someone who was never supposed to survive? The warehouse squatted at the edge of the NATO training grounds like a forgotten animal. 2 stories, cracked windows, rusted doors. It had been converted into a mock compound for extraction drills, but something about it felt wrong the moment Leia stepped off the transport truck. Briggs briefed the team quickly. "Smash and grab 3 rooms. Grab the HVT. Extract in 15. Leia listened quietly. Chen, Novik, Tors. Young, capable, but still unscarred. They trusted the plan because they had been trained to trust the system. That was the problem. They stacked at the door. 3, 2, 1. Breach. The door swung inward and the first shots cracked through the air. Simunition rounds smacked into the walls, stinging, marking. Chen and Tors dropped the first 2 role players clean. Then more appeared. 6, 8, 10. "Fall back," Briggs yelled. The map was wrong. The hallway was wrong. The staircase wasn't supposed to be there. This wasn't light resistance. Tors went down, blue paint splattering across his chest. Dead. Novik took 3 to the back. Chen's rifle clicked dry. "I'm out." Briggs took a hit to the shoulder, swore through clenched teeth. They were boxed in, surrounded, the HVT still inside. A training drill didn't go like this. This was a setup. Leia tried the standard radio. Static, jammed. Briggs looked at her. "Captain, we need to call it." Leia saw the angles, the exits, the closing walls. She reached into her vest and pulled out a second radio. Smaller, different. "Night Andel 7 to Overwatch," she said calmly. "Request immediate extract. Grid November Whiskey 4721. Authenticate Tango Hotel November." Silence. Then a voice answered. "Mail authentication confirmed. QRF inbound 2 minutes." Briggs stared at her. "What the hell did you just do?" Leia didn't answer. The door exploded inward. Not training forces. Real ones. 4 operators moved like shadows, clearing the room in seconds. "Drill over," one of them said flatly. The HVT was secured. The role players scattered. 90 seconds later, it was done. Briggs looked at Leia like he was seeing her for the first time. "Who are you?" Leia holstered her weapon, someone who does miss. Back in the command center, Reed and Hayes watched the footage in silence. "Ghost Hawk," Hayes whispered. "And she just flushed her prey," Reed replied. Somewhere in the camp, Colonel Hale felt it too. The trap he'd tried to set had snapped shut around him instead. 5. Why did Colonel Hale's voice start to shake the moment the call sign, Nightingale 7, echoed through the command center? The room was too quiet. Monitors glowed against darkened walls, replaying the extraction from every angle. The moment Leia raised that radio, the moment she spoke a name that was never supposed to exist anymore. Nightingale 7. Commander Reed stood frozen, eyes locked on the screen. Sergeant Major Hayes was beside him, arms folded tight across his chest. "That call sign was buried in 2019, Reed said, "decommissioned after Ghost Hawk was wiped out." "And yet she used it like she never stopped," Hayes replied. "They didn't need to say the rest. Ghosts don't forget their names." General Patricia Calloway arrived within minutes, gray hair pulled back, eyes that had seen too many wars to be impressed by anything but truth. "Colonel Hale," she said calmly, "are you familiar with Ghost Hawk?" Hale stiffened. "That operation was years ago, aborted." "3 operators died when you pulled air support," Calloway replied. "One of them didn't." She gestured to the screen. Leia's face, calm and unflinching. Reed played the recording. "Captain Anders needs to go," Hale's own voice said through the speakers. "Reassign her, break her, just get her out of my camp." The room went cold. Hayes laid out the financial transfers, shell companies, deposits, Volkov's network. Hale's face drained of color. "You sold them out," Calloway said quietly. "You sold out your own people. Military police took him away." Reed didn't celebrate. He just whispered, "We need to find her." They found Leia sitting on her bunk, still in her gear. She wasn't surprised. "You used yourself as bait," Reed said. Leia nodded. "Fear makes people reveal themselves." "And all that humiliation," Hayes asked, "was the cost of proof?" Calloway offered her a new posting, recognition, honor. Leia declined. "I'm not done," she said softly. "Because the network that killed Ghost Hawk was still alive." Why did the ghost who finally got justice look more tired than triumphant as she packed her bag before dawn? The camp was quiet in a way that felt almost unnatural, not peaceful, just holding its breath. Colonel Hale was in detention, his office sealed, his career erased in a single night. People who had laughed at Leia now avoided her eyes, ashamed or uncertain of what to say to the woman who had walked through humiliation and turned it into a weapon. Sergeant Major Hayes watched from the mess hall window as she crossed the courtyard alone, moving with the same steady control she always had. Not proud, not angry, just resolved. "She never wanted applause," he murmured, "only the truth." In her quarters, Leia sat on the edge of her bunk. The challenge coin lay in her palm, worn smooth from years of being turned between her fingers in dark places. The hawk on it was scarred, but unbroken. A message blinked on her laptop. "Target confirmed. Ramstein Air Base. Phase 2 authorized." 3 faces filled the screen, people who had signed contracts and signed death warrants with the same pen. She closed the file. Justice was never finished, it only moved. Outside, a shadow near the perimeter fence raised binoculars toward her window. A quiet confirmation passed through the darkness. "Hawk is active." Leia zipped her bag. There was a knock at the door. Commander Reed stood there, eyes heavy with unslept nights. "You're leaving?" "Yes." "Let me help." She shook her head. Some hunts need one set of footprints. He hesitated. When this is over, don't disappear. She almost smiled. I never really do. An hour later, she drove through the gates as the first light of morning brushed the sky. The camp faded behind her. Hayes raised his mug in silent salute. On her desk, the challenge coin caught the sun. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.